And joining us here in studio, MSNBC national political correspondent Steve Kornacki, and two co-hosts of MSNBC's The Weekend, former RNC chair Michael Steele and former Harris spokesperson Symone Sanders Townsend, along with former Republican congressman from Florida, David Jolly. So, Steve, the first results came in past midnight, right, at tiny Dixville Notch in New Hampshire, 3-3, 3 for Harris, 3 for Trump. What are you looking at, and what are you going to be focusing on when polls first close?
Yeah, I mean, fitting that we've already got some results, and it's still a tie, I guess, given given how this is going. So, okay, the first poll closings, you see the countdown here. That's going to be in most of or some of Indiana and Kentucky. Obviously, we don't expect either state to be a swing state, to be a battleground. We'll see if there's any surprises or a couple counties in those states that might give us some kind of a clue, although they're usually very slow at counting in Indiana. So really, it is 7 o'clock Eastern. That is when the action is going to start. The first core battleground state, Georgia. Polls close there, and I think this is key to keep in mind. If we think back to 2020, remember the weekend after the election, we were still waiting on a result in Georgia. It may be very different this time around. There's been a change in the state law, a change in the process, and what it essentially means is that in that first hour between 7 and 8 p.m., we expect, if all goes to plan, about 80% of all the votes cast in Georgia will be counted and known publicly in that first hour. The only thing that will be left after that would come in over the next couple hours would be the people going out to Georgia, cast polls in Georgia today and casting votes in person today. The vast majority was done early, and that will be reported out in the first hour. A major, major clue could come early. 7:30, you just heard North Carolina polls closed then. Also expected to be a fairly quick counting state. The possibility, unless it's razor thin, which is also possible, of getting a little bit of clarity in these states early is very real tonight. 8 o'clock, you see a Michigan poll close with a star. Almost all of Michigan closes at 8. You'll see results. You will not get a call in Michigan guaranteed between 8 and 9, because at 9 o'clock, there are 4 counties in the fringes of the UP that close their polls. Then the whole state closes, and then we'll see where we are. But, of course, we expect it to be longer than that in Michigan anyway. Pennsylvania, the big one, 8 o'clock. Polls are going to close there. Key thing to keep in mind, what's going to happen almost entirely in the state is they have a ton of vote by mail. Not as much as before, but a ton of it. All of it, or just about all of it, is going to be released first by the counties in Pennsylvania. So that means the Democrats, because they do so well with vote by mail, you can expect that in the 8 to 9 o'clock window or so, you're going to see the best numbers Democrats put up in Pennsylvania then. And the question is going to become, as the election day vote, the people going out to vote today, a more Republican group, as that gets added to the mix in Pennsylvania later in the night, what kind of a hole is Donald Trump in, and can he come out of that hole with the election day vote? We expect that sequence in Pennsylvania. It says 9 o'clock for Arizona. Okay, 9 o'clock Eastern, the polls close. Also, the state law, they must wait an hour after that, so 10 p.m. Eastern. And by the way, when it comes out in Arizona at 10 p.m., you're going to get about 2/3 of all the vote in the state at 10 p.m. It could be slower after that, but we will get a lot. Wisconsin, 9 o'clock. There could be a big development. Milwaukee usually reports out the rest of its vote in the wee morning hours. We're talking about like 100,000 votes we could be waiting on. Keep that in mind. Nevada, 10 p.m. But in Nevada, sometimes it can take a couple hours after that to even get some votes reported out. So bottom line, we have the potential this time around to have more clarity more quickly in this election than 2020, but the possibility we could be waiting in a state like Nevada, waiting in a state like Arizona for days looms as well.
Steve, I got to ask you perhaps the most important question for you today. What is your secret to what powers you through? You've got a long night coming up, my friend.
I don't want to sound corny. It's the excitement. I mean, how long have we been talking about this? It seems like since the last election. What's going to happen? Everybody has confident prediction. We get to find out. And we get to find out. It's like all these little puzzle pieces, state by state, county by county, get put together. It is fascinating to me to watch that happen. And anybody out there who is as fascinated as me, come on, let's watch it together tonight.
We're going to be riding on the adrenaline. Steve Kornacki.
You got it.
Thank you. It is an exciting, it is a historic moment. It's an unprecedented election. We've said all those words, and it's just the truth. Symone, one of the hallmarks of this particular election has been the gender divide, right? You have Harris up big with women, Trump up with men. And I just want you to listen to what Trump said just last night about some very prominent Democratic women.
And Michelle hit me. I was so nice to her, out of respect. I was saying, She hit me the other day. I was going to say to my people, am I allowed to hit her now? Mike Tyson, is a great guy. Oh, he says, put Mike in the ring with Kamala. That would be interesting. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, she's an evil, sick, crazy bitch. Oh, no. It starts with a B, but I won't say it. I want to say it.
You also had J.D. Vance calling Kamala Harris trash.
I had never seen that clip. I had not. I did not know he said that. This is a man that is unwell and unsettled because he knows this race is close. And that, I'm so glad you all showed that, because I am someone that believes in, Michael and I, we talk about this all the time with Alicia on the weekend, that, you know, Donald Trump, there are many people that have not heard what he said. And some, you know, just like the folks, the voters in the clips that Yasmin and the other reporters that got from around the country, these people at the polls are saying, oh, well, Donald Trump's a good businessman. You know, oh, I don't like some of this, but I don't like some of the things, but I think he'd be good for the economy. I think he'd be good for the country. I don't know if they know that that's how he talks, that this is his closing argument. And you juxtapose that with Vice President Harris last night. And last night, her message was, it was a lot of her stump speech that we had heard before. But again, not everyone is as keyed in as we are. And it was hopeful. It was joyful. It talked about working for the American people. She asked people for their vote. I'm just disgusted by the clip and just very disheartened. But this race is going to be close. Even with those comments, this is a close race.
Yeah, and Michael, first of all, why do you think it is? And second of all, let's hear a little bit more from the vice president. Yes, as we're talking about tone and differences, here's a little bit more from the vice president last night in her closing message.
Ours is not a fight against something. It is a fight for something. America is ready for a fresh start. Ready for a new way forward where we see our fellow American not as an enemy, but as a neighbor. And we are ready for a president who knows that the true measure of a leader is not based on who you beat down, but based on who you lift up.
You know, this is the final message, but before that, there was a lot of focus on Donald Trump about his threat to democracy, the dangers, and so much more. Just wondering, what is it that in a campaign permeates with people? Is it the long 100 days, if you want to call it long? Is it that process which includes different phases, or is it the final message?
So first off, let me just go back to the whole thing with Steve. This is so exciting. I mean, it's a kind of a look. As a county, state, and national chairman, I love elections. So I'm like, and having a great candidate like a David Jolly on my ballot. Oh my God, you look for moments like that. Kamala Harris has done something that the history books are going to write, regardless of the outcome of this election. They're going to write about her as a transcendent presidential nominee, because she did in 107 days what nobody thought could be done, number one. Number two, her messaging was the quintessential elements and ideas around discipline. She was disciplined. She was focused. She spent the better part of all but the last 2 weeks talking about Trump and contextualizing him, very much to Simone's point, putting his words at her rallies were videotrons of Donald Trump. So she's playing him real time during her rallies so people can actually hear the words. She's not just, I'm not going to quote him, I'm going to let you hear him. Transformative. The last 2 weeks, what has she done? She's focused not on Donald Trump, but on us. Every one of us. The women on this panel, the women across the country, young girls, dads with daughters. She's focused on people and how they have consumed this election in a way that she's saying in her closing message, we can't move forward together if we're tearing each other down. At the end of the day, I've got to be a president for you. Give me a chance. juxtaposed, and again, she don't have to say about Donald Trump, but juxtaposed to what Trump is saying. He's trying to call Nancy Pelosi the B word. He is denigrating women. He is threatening them, and that's the difference.
To that point, in terms of closing messages and this contrast, David Jolly, this will be the fourth campaign now that Democrats have run against Donald Trump. You had Hillary Clinton, you had Joe Biden, you had Joe Biden again, now Kamala Harris. Have Democrats gotten better at having and making a closing message against Trump?
I think so. Look, each candidate has to meet the moment. They have to meet the election cycle that they're in. And the strongest coalition in the country since 2016 is a coalition that doesn't want Donald Trump to return to power. I mean, the reason Democrats should feel somewhat good tonight, we'll see what happens, is that since Donald Trump came down that stairwell, or that escalator, in 18, 20, and 22, Democrats overperformed. Women overperformed for Democrats. And in this cycle, that trend continues, and you have the added Dobbs decision that is really a motivator on policy. And what I find remarkable that I think we have to acknowledge, it's a little unsettling, is the fact that Donald Trump is also a convicted criminal. None of those voters actually were
sentenced at the end of this month.
Right. None of those voters acknowledge that we might
Twice
re-elect.
impeached as well.
Twice impeached, but a convicted criminal to the White House. And I think why may this be so close is because a lot of our politics happens in the lower information, lower propensity space where people vote on brand, how they feel, right direction, wrong direction. But all it takes is a moment of seeing the two candidates. The aspirational qualities of Vice President Harris saying, I want to be a president for all people, or Donald Trump calling his opponents evil, having an enemies list, and wanting to punch down. A child can see that contrast, and I think.
I mean, some people vote on the issues, though, too. I mean, I was talking
and how
to
they
people
feel.
who have been, you know,
How they feel in
decided
their
voters
household.
up until the very end, and they talked about, you know, the economy or foreign policy being things that were driving them, motivating them as they're looking at these two choices.